Hello again. I'm back with another review. This one I've been excited about for a long time. I purchased my first set of soft oil pastels as a Christmas present for myself. A little background, I became interested in pastels after seeing some videos by Leontine Van Vliet. I probably just butchered her name. There is a link to her YouTube page in the description below. She does some amazing things with pastels, and as I am branching out to other mediums, I figured pastels would be something to try out. I do have a little story about my pastel experience near the end of the video, but now I will get on with the review. I did an unboxing of these earlier in the year. At the time, I attempted to do a sunset type drawing, which you can see above. It went okay. I liked the colors. The pastels weren't particularly easy to use, but it was my first time using them, and I really had no clue what I was doing. Since then, I have simply thought about doing something else. I really wanted to do a portrait, as I'd given away a portrait of my youngest son to his grandparents. I feel I needed to get another drawing of him done, so I'm using him as my reference. This time I did a little research, which consisted of viewing a color pastel portrait done by Lunar Splash. The link to the video is also in the description. Watching this video and listening to what she said gave me some ideas on what I should do. Again, this is the 36 set of pastels by Mungyo, the artist grade soft oil pastels. I'm also using a brush to clean things off from time to time, some paper stubs to blend. These are the Derwent Academy paper stubs, and a few Prismacolor Premier colored pencils for details, mainly the black. I'm also using Canson Mi Chance pastel paper. In my unboxing video, I did mention I would do a formal review when I had more experience. I haven't touched these since the unboxing, so I'm just going to wing it. The first thing to note is these are intense colors. The flesh tone I start with was salmon. This is similar to a medium flesh, and it doesn't really match his skin color. I find by adding just a touch of pale yellow, I can tone it down a bit. For darker areas of skin, I'm using the ochre and brown. Dark umber, brown, and ochre are used for the hair. I also throw in black and white for some highlights. I find I get the best results by putting down a light layer of pastel. I then overlay another color on top of that, and then use the paper stub to blend them. Since I'm just using stick pastels, getting details around the eyes, mouth, and nose are quite difficult. I can get a bit better detail if I put down some color and then move it around with the paper stub. But even doing this doesn't give me great detail. In trying to color in the eyes, it is not hard for me to screw things up, and I have now made one eye too big using a dark brown or black, and this isn't something I can easily correct. Before buying the Mungyo pastels, I asked for some opinions on what pastels to purchase from a Facebook group that focuses on pastel art. I was specifically asking if the Prismacolor new pastels are any good. The advice I got was to go with Holbein or Sennelier, and to supplement these with a set of pastel pencils. The recommendations were great, but the hit on my pocketbook would have been huge. So I went with Mungyo Gallery, which are considered a lower quality but recommended oil pastel. Having used the Mungyo sticks a little bit more, I do realize that if I want the details, I should either be working on a larger drawing or I need to pick up some pastel pencils. I should note that the Prismacolor Premier colored pencils do work reasonably well with the pastels, but only in areas where the pastel hasn't been layered thick. Otherwise, you just end up scraping off the pastel. I have slowed things down a little bit, just showing how I add in some pastel, then use the paper stub to blend, or in some cases, push the pastel into the tooth of the paper. The Kansen pastel paper has some little dots on it, and you need to fill these up. I don't really like these dots, and I might try and use the other side of the paper for my next drawing. It is smoother, but probably rough enough to work with. I'm just filling in the lip here using the purple, and that seems just a little dark, so I'm going to go over it now with some pink. Again, I'm not pressing very hard, just cleaning off the pink now. So I don't need to fill in the tooth of the paper, just need to apply to get enough pastel on there so I can blend it. And now just get the top lip done here. For little details like this, I do find it to be quite difficult, and it's not hard for me to make mistakes. So I'm going to use the white now just to blend things. Again, this will lighten things up a bit more. And of course, I always need to clean off the white. I find the white is quite good for blending colors, toning them down. And again, if you're doing a little area, you don't really have to press hard and blend it. If you're doing a big region like his face, for instance, his cheek, you can use just the pastel to blend. You don't really have to press hard. By pressing hard, you end up getting flakes and bits of pastel on your paper, which can make a bit of a mess. So again, back to the purple. Just darkening up the shaded side of his lips. And now I can pull out the paper stub. I'm using the smallest one here. I'm just trying to blend those colors together, better define the lip, and try to fill in a bit of that tooth of the paper. Starting to look not too bad. I'll need a little bit more pastel. Touch more pink here. And that looks pretty good. Thicken up that lip a little bit. Again, trying to do details with the stubs isn't that easy. And that's almost it for the bottom lip here. It's looking pretty good. Back to full speed. I have about half the face done, and I'm at the point where I feel a little more comfortable using the pastels. So far, no serious complaints. They blend well. You can layer them using this type of paper. If I want to add a white layer on top of something, I find it is somewhat translucent. Using the white to try and correct some mistakes isn't ideal. It has a tendency to blend too easily and not overlay. Maybe there is a technique I haven't mastered. I find that at best, you can just tone down the mistake. You can attempt to scrape off the pastel to fix problems. You can also incorporate scraping to sharpen edges and add details. Using the paper stubs makes things go a lot smoother. I was using a Prismacolor colorless blender on my landscape drawing, and that had a tendency to remove the pastel rather than push it into the tooth or blend it. The paper stubs do introduce some lines or marks in the pastel. If these bother you, you can smooth them out easily with a finger. Speaking of fingers, For the oil pastels, I don't really recommend using your fingers to blend them. I find it to be quite difficult. If you're just doing a little section and smoothing things out, that's not so bad. Now onto my little story. I was inspired to work with pastels after viewing some drawings by Leontine Van Vliet. She mentions she works with soft pastels, and because I know very little about pastels, I assumed she was talking about oil pastels. Turns out she wasn't. A few weeks back, she posted a video of her first experience using oil pastels, and she wasn't overly happy with the end results. She did a second drawing which she posted, and it was an improvement, but nowhere up to her normal pastel standards. So this being my second drawing and my first portrait, I'm feeling pretty good. And from working with these and observing the Riis oil pastels in action, I feel the Mungyo are far better pastels. Now next time, I will change things up a bit. I will probably go with a larger drawing so it'll be easier to work in the details. I definitely need to focus more on my color matching. I might even try some different paper. The dots, they bother me. I'd like to get some pastel pencils or some chalk pastels, but I don't have the budget for that at the moment. Although I am happy with the drawing, I know I can do better. Knowing that, I have to give a thumbs up for the Mungyo oil pastels. If I can do a portrait where it is possible to recognize my son, then clearly the pastels are of decent quality. That is all for now. I should be back in a few weeks with another drawing. I'm trying to muster up the courage to work with my acrylic paints. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.